Hi friends, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be showing you Morgan Taylor's new Lace is More collection for spring. The 6-piece collection is described as having both muted and bright pops of color, and I'm pretty excited because it's the first spring collection that we are reviewing on my channel. As always, I will save more of my thoughts at the end after comparisons, but for now, let's just get into the swatches. The first polish we have is Freshly Cut, and this is a grassy spring green. So no surprise, I was not crazy about this color. As you might know, I'm just not the biggest fan of yellow leaning greens. Even though it definitely is very appropriate for the spring season, I just prefer more like pastel greens. I personally don't think the yellow leaning color is really flattering on me, but it could also just be a personal preference. Either way though, this one had an amazing formula that was very full coverage, just a little bit sheer on the first coat, but fully opaque in just two. The next shade is Sweet Morning Breeze, and this is a pale sea spray blue that has this really pretty blue shimmer in the bottle that unfortunately doesn't really translate that well onto the nail. It really is a super subtle shimmer effect. It's not going to be glowy like indie polishes we've seen, but if you are looking for something that is a little bit more on the subtle side, I think this would be a perfect shade because regardless, I still really love this color so much. It's definitely my favorite from the collection. Again, the formula was super smooth, very easy to apply like butter, and really creamy coverage. It was just a little bit sheer on the first coat, but still fully opaque in two. Though because this is a lighter shade, I could see you needing a third if you prefer thinner coats. This next shade is called Sunny Days Ahead, and it's described as a sunny pastel yellow cream. And while it definitely is very yellow leaning, I would say that this color falls more in like the peachy and even creamsicle kind of color range, which, don't get me wrong, I definitely think is very pretty, especially for spring, but I was hoping that this was a little bit more on the yellow side. But it's weird because compared to the next shade, this one definitely does look a little bit more yellow, so I guess I could see why they describe it that way. Color aside though, the formula on this one was pretty decent for the most part. Like, it still applied really nicely and provided really good coverage again for the most part, but I feel like on two coats it still was a little bit sheer, or I just had some little bald spots here or there where I can see through to my nail line a bit more. So I personally found that I needed 3 coats to get this one fully opaque for me. So even though I wouldn't call this a pastel yellow, I still really like the color of this one and think it's really cute for spring. Next we have Lace Be Honest, and this one is described as a pastel kumquat cream, and I would say that this one is the most muted and kind of neutral of the whole collection. It has a really pretty muted peachy kind of color to it that I feel like is a little bit warm, but still somehow also bordering into that like creamsicle territory. This one had another really nice formula though, where I found this one opaque for me on 2 coats, but kind of similar to the last shade. I could see you needing a third if you prefer to do thinner coats. But yeah, I really wanted to like this color, but I just feel like it's not the most flattering on me. Like, I can't see myself wearing this as a full manicure. Up next we have Tidy Touch, and this one is described as being a salmon pink cream, which I'm not sure I would fully agree with that description, but I definitely think it is a beautiful shade of pink. It's almost like one of those dusty, rosy blush shades, but I feel like this one does still have a nice pop of actual color to it, so it makes it a little bit more brighter than the typical muted blush pastel pinks, if that makes sense. I don't know, I definitely am super biased towards this shade though, because I feel like it reminds me of this pink Avon shade that I used to wear in high school. There's something about it that I think is just so romantic and so flattering. This one also had an amazing formula too that was really creamy and opaque in just 2 coats. And rounding out the collection, we have Very Berry Clean, and I'm pretty sure this one was described as a grape purple cream. It's definitely one of those medium-toned, red-leaning purples that I thought I wasn't going to like because I just never really was a fan of these specific shades of purples, but this one had a 1-coat formula basically, so it was just really impressive. I feel like if you have shorter nails, you can definitely get away with 1 coat. I still ended up doing a 2nd coat just to see if it really changed anything anything as far as the coverage or color goes, and I would say no. So depending on your application, this is a one coater. And here is the collection worn as a skittle in 2 coats each. I have Sunny Days Ahead and Lace Be Honest both on my thumb here, and you can see that Sunny Days Ahead definitely does lean a little bit more yellow, but I think in real life you can see the more creamsicle kind of color to it. And here it is in the shade, and I feel like these shades look so nice together. I just really love this color palette. It's so bright and fun and fresh for spring, so no surprise that they look great both in the sun and the shade. I kind of wish the blue shimmer was a little stronger in Sweet Morning Breeze though. And here is the full collection lineup. So when I first saw the lineup, I really kind of thought it was unnecessary to have those 2 middle shades together because they were really similar looking, but I do think they end up looking more similar in the bottle than they do on the nails. So I personally don't mind having the options, but I know some people really don't like that. So getting into comparisons, the first shade that I thought of for Freshly Cut was Morgan Taylor's Lost My Train of Thought from their fall collection. And pulling these out side by side, I just couldn't tell a difference at first, so I thought they were going to be exact dupes, but seeing them on the nail, they definitely are not. Lost My Train of Thought is more of a true chartreuse kind of color, while Freshly Cut is just a very yellow leaning green, but it definitely has more of a spring vibe to it. So these aren't dupes. And then I thought of Holo Tacos Not Pressed from their Down to Earth bundle last fall, and again, seeing them side by side, I was just convinced that these were going to be exact dupes. They're definitely a lot closer than the last 2 shades, but Holo Tacos is definitely a bit more of that olivey fall kind of color, and again, Freshly Cut is just more appropriate for spring. So these ended up not being dupes either. Then for Sweet Morning Breeze, I wanted to show this next to Olive Ab's Cloudy, which is this very pale light blue cream. I thought these were going to be kind of similar, but on the nail you can see Cloudy is just very white based, and it's also a true cream. Sweet Morning Breeze almost looked like it had a little bit of like cornflower or something in it, so I thought maybe I could show it next to Olive Ab's Jeannie, which is a nice cornflower periwinkle blue cream. These are a little bit more similar in terms of like their saturation maybe, but they're definitely not dupes as far as their colors go. Then for Sunny Days Ahead, I wanted to quickly show this next to Olive Ab's Sunshine, which is a true pastel yellow cream, just so you can get a better idea of how orangey or peachy leaning Sunny Days Ahead is. So for an actual closer comparison, I wanted to show it next to Olive Ab's Creamsicle, which is pretty much a true creamsicle pale orange kind of color. And again, these look like they were going to be dupes in the bottle, but on the nail, they aren't exact dupes. You can see that Sunny Days Ahead definitely leans a little bit more yellow, especially on the nail, because I feel like in the back, in the bottles, they do look pretty similar. So it makes me wonder if Morgan Taylor bottles are just a little cloudy or something. Then for Lace Be Honest, I wanted to show this next to Olive Ab's Limestone, which is one of their neutral shades that I feel like always reminds me of foundation, or like badly matching foundation for me personally. That one is definitely more of a true neutral, and this is another polish or comparison that really makes me think that the Morgan Taylor bottles are just maybe like more gray, because they look kind of similar in the bottle, but on the nail they are completely different. So because of how bright Lace Be Honest looks on the nail, I thought it might be a closer comparison to Holo Tacos Rest in Peach from last year's Pastel and Don't Tell bundle, but these are far from dupes. Rest in Peach is more of like a whitened peach kind of color, and Lace Be Honest is more of like that muted orangey peachy kind of shade. So definitely not dupes, and I'm not sure which one I like more. Then for Tidy Touch, I was immediately reminded of Holo Tacos Lowkey Blushing from the Down to Earth bundle, which is another muted, rosy kind of pink shade. And again, these might look kind of similar in the bottle, but on the nails, they are definitely not dupes. Holo Tacos is much more of a muted and dusty kind of shade, so it really is like the same color, but for fall. And lastly, for Very Berry Clean, I wanted to show this next to Olive Ab's Afterglow from the Summer Sunset collection. It's another kind of mid-toned, reddish leaning purple color. And I also wanted to show it next to Londontown Lakur's Violet Hibiscus from last year's summer collection as well. I thought these were going to be a lot more similar than they ended up being, because on the nail, the Olive Ab and Londontown shades are just much darker and also a bit more red leaning too. So no dupes here either. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Morgan Taylor's Lace is More collection. As always, I would love to know what your thoughts are on this spring release. I think generally I do really like the collection. I think it's just such a really pretty color palette. I love that it has that mix of like soft muted colors, but then there's also the brighter punchy pops of color too. I know the colors themselves aren't like super revolutionary though, like as you saw in my comparisons, I pretty much had decent dupes for most of these, but if you don't already have anything like these shades in your collection, then I can't recommend these enough because Morgan Taylor just is a really great brand with such amazing formulas and brushes. So I really don't think you could go wrong with any of these shades if you were to pick them up. I know spring collections can definitely be very hit or miss though, like some people really don't love the muted pastels. So I think these are a really nice option because they are just a little bit brighter. Of course, make sure to let me know any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.